Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is your one-stop shop to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. What is going on, guys, and welcome back to a brand new Buzzfeed test. If you are unaware, the day I'm filming this, Monday, March 18th, is my birthday, and I want to make a damn pizza cake. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, David, BuzzFeed has never made a pizza cake before. How is this a BuzzFeed test? Well, pizza cakes are comprised of multiple layers of pizza stacked up together and baked in a pizza crust shell. Every single layer of pizza I'm gonna top with one of my favorite BuzzFeed tests from the past. I'm gonna be reviving the pizza mac and cheese, the aligo cheesy potatoes, the all-day breakfast burger. Each layer of pizza will be themed to a different BuzzFeed test. This is insanity. It's also probably gonna take me 8 hours to make and approximately $80 worth of groceries, but let's get right into it. Now, if I were to sit here and list every single ingredient I'm using like I used to, that would take up probably the next 8 minutes of your life that this whole video is gonna take. So besides the obvious pizza dough, marinara sauce, and mozzarella cheese that I'm using for the pizza layers, I'm also grabbing everything for the pizza mac and cheese, the all-day breakfast burger, and what we're gonna be starting with, the aligo cheesy French potato dish that I did a few months back. Step number one is to peel your potatoes. You actually only need about 5 medium-sized russet potatoes for this. It's not a ton. It's honestly almost equal parts potatoes and cheese, which kind of sounds nasty, but it's honestly delicious, and how else do you expect to get such stringy marshmallow fluff like potatoes? Now, while I was letting my potatoes come to a boil and simmer away for about 20 minutes, I shredded up a block of my Swiss cheese and then measured out about a cup of heavy cream, and a whole stick of butter is going into this. I feel dirty just saying that. I remember when this video came out, I don't think it was Tasty who did it first. I think they did it on Eating Your Feed. It just like took over the internet. I had never seen anything like this before. I also remember when I tried to make this, I pretty much lost all hope in my first attempt. The cheese wasn't melting, it wasn't stringy at all. I learned that you needed to stick with it over low heat, add in the cheese very slowly, and eventually you get to this. I feel like this isn't quite as perfect as the last time, but I am pretty happy with it, so I set it aside and got on to recipe number 2. Next up is what I think is going to take the longest, and that's the pizza mac and cheese for our second layer. I made this for the 100th episode, for those of you who remember. This is definitely, probably in my top 5 recipes of all time. I will say add a lot of salt and pepper in the cheese sauce, because they really don't in the original recipe. Also, the original video of this is so old, I had to find it on BuzzFeed Foods Facebook page before Tasty even existed. That just goes to show how long I've been doing these videos. But once I had my cheese sauce looking delicious, I dumped in my elbow macaroni, mixed those two together, and as this sits, the pasta will absorb a lot of the sauce, so I'm not too worried about it being too soupy right now. Now, lastly is another one of my all-time favorites, the all-day breakfast burger, and I'm obviously gonna have to dissect this because I can't just stick a burger in a pizza cake. So I first chopped up some thick cut bacon, and I'm gonna just basically crisp this in my pan, make some bacon bits instead of the full strips of bacon that we would put on the burger. I'm also going to brown up some ground beef. This will act as the burger section. And of course, we cannot forget about the tater tot bun. I'm basically just gonna bake some of these frozen tater tots and stick them in as a layer with the ground beef. So it's kind of like a chewed up and spit out version of the all-day breakfast burger. But now that our 3 main components are complete, I'm gonna roll out some pizza dough just like I would when I was making normal pizzas. And I'm trying to measure these so they'll fit in my Dutch oven. That's what I'm gonna cook this whole thing in the end. And my idea here is to make 4 normal pizzas just with dough, sauce, and cheese. Pre-bake them a little bit so the dough isn't raw in the middle, and then just basically alternate layers of pizza to breakfast burger to pizza to mac and cheese. So then when it bakes off in the oven, all those layers will combine, and hopefully you'll be able to see the pizza layers as if each Buzzfeed test is their topping, if that makes sense. And after a little bit of pizza making, I had my 4 looking pretty decent. I think the dough is cooked enough. So I began to throw this concoction together, of course after wrestling with the strip of dough to go around the sides of this and hopefully contain everything so it looks like a cake in the end. So like I said, I alternated between a layer of pizza and the mac and cheese, another layer of pizza. I also realized I grossly overestimated the amount of the Buzzfeed tests I would need for each layer. I had a ton of mashed potatoes and mac and cheese left over, which I guess isn't a bad thing. I also threw some of the leftover shredded mozzarella cheese I had in between a few of the layers, because why not at this point. But I tried to wrap everything together and top the whole thing off with some pepperoni slices. And eventually I was able to put this in a 375-degree oven for about 35 to 40 minutes until everything melted down. And it was about at this point when I was pulling it out of the oven when I realized I didn't oil the inside of the pan or really do anything to prevent the dough from sticking on the inside. So this ought to be fun. I spent about 15 minutes trying to pry the dough off the sides with my offset spatula. I tried to let it cool for a little while to see if the dough would get a little more brittle, and maybe that'll help, and it really wasn't. So I figured I would just put a cookie sheet on it and go for it and flip it out. And yeah, we lost a very large chunk of dough in the bottom of this. But if it stays together and it tastes as good as I think it's going to, I will certainly not complain. Now, I don't think this is necessarily what I envisioned when I conjured up this idea in my head. You definitely still can see each individual layer in there. I'll give it that. I do feel like this is a very good representation of the mess that is my YouTube channel. Happy birthday to me, even though by the time you see this, it'll be 4 days later. I'm just gonna say right now, this is fantastic, but it's gonna give me some problems later, if you know what I mean. Who would have thought that pizza and mac and cheese and burgers and mashed potatoes would be so good together? I've been going through a lot these days, guys. My views have been questionable. I got a rent payment now. But this just makes everything okay. Absolutely, without a doubt, 10 out of 10. I would make it again for every birthday for the rest of my life. Now before we wrap things up today, guys, I want to give some love to my friends over at Squarespace. Squarespace is a dynamic, all-in-one platform where you can claim a domain, build a website, sell online, and market your brand easier than ever before. Now last time around I mentioned Squarespace's award-winning website templates. This time I wanted to highlight their amazing customer service, ranked one of the highest in the business. To get started with your own business and your own beautifully crafted website, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/David Seymour to save 10% on your first purchase. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave a big like on this one. Follow me over on Instagram and Twitter. You know the drill. Hopefully I'll have a Instagram story poll next week for you guys, so look out for that. Other than that, have an awesome weekend, and I will see you right back here next time. Peace.
With the M without the AD. Flipping burgers and my money super lazy. Try and make a meal tonight, they ain't paying me. Try and supersize my life with my 18. Yeah, our style wasn't wavy, but we had a vision.